The Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer was considered to be immensely successful. Its main goal was to eventually phase out the production and consumption of CFCs. Research and evidence carried out by scientists and the academic world was a main reason for the occurrence of the protocol. I will analyze some of the successes and what some believe to be problems associated with it. The widely considered success of the 1987 Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer was a product of the epistemic community, and it continued to develop itself despite criticism. The Montreal Protocol occurred in 1987. It was signed by 46 nations September 16th and was in effect as of January 1st, 1989. The protocol was designed to phase out the use of ozone-depleting substances, particularly calling for a reduction in chlorofluorocarbons, otherwise known as CFCs, as well as bromine compounds. It placed controls on the production and consumption of chemicals that deplete the ozone. It contained a structure for the administration and enforcement of control requirements and encouraged regular assessments of its control provisions. It uses nations' 1986 levels of consumption regarding specific substances as a reference point in order to continually reduce them over time. The substances targeted within the protocol were outlined in Annex A. From the chlorofluorocarbon group, the ozone-depleting substances were CFC-11, CFC-12, CFC-113, CFC-114, and CFC-115. From the bromine compound group, the ozone-depleting substances were halon-1211, halon-1301, and halon-2402. Some examples of products that contain such substances are air conditioning units in vehicles, refrigerators, heating units, aerosol products, fire extinguishers, and insulation boards, to name a few. There were also regulations on their importation and exportation. For example, it prohibited the importation of such substances from states not part of the protocol beginning at some point within their first year of inception. States were also banned to export these substances to non-party states as of January 1st, 1993. Even the exporting of the technology that could produce ozone-depleting substances was discouraged. Parties were also required to submit annual reports, provide assistance to each other concerning research promotion, development, and control techniques. The protocol dictated that regular meetings shall take place, with the first one happening no later than 1 year after the date of entry. The Montreal Protocol did not happen simply because nations felt like meeting every year. It happened because, due to scientific research, the world realized it needed to happen. In 1974, Mario J. Molina and Sherwood Rowland first claimed that CFCs were harmful to the ozone layer. They revealed that CFCs do not break down until they reach a stratosphere, where they then release chlorine, which destroys ozone. This is considered one of the major studies conducted to have been a significant spark behind the Montreal Protocol in 1987. Furthermore, research gathered on the Antarctic ozone, mainly conducted by NASA, also helped the world realize that this was a serious issue. The lowest level of ozone covering Antarctica was recorded in September 1987. It has been noted that this was due to man-made chemicals as well as a change in meteorological conditions in the given area. This particular expedition found that the ozone at 11 miles above Antarctica was depleted by 50% of its original thickness. It was also discovered through this study that the rate at which Antarctica was changing was far more accelerated than any other place on Earth. In fact, in certain areas around Antarctica, ozone was depleting at a rate of 10% daily, and the levels of chlorine in the atmosphere were twice as high in 1987 than in 1975. Senior Associate of the World Resources Institute, Rafe Pomerantz, believed the situation pressured nations into ratifying the Montreal Protocol. However, at this point in time, the leaders of this particular expedition did not think this should generate any global conclusions because this phenomenon was not yet fully understood. In fact, many criticized a lack of concrete evidence concerning what exactly was depleting the ozone. Peter Haas argues that states move forward regarding the protocol based mainly on popular assumption, though he did not view this as a negative thing. Administrator Lee Thomas of the EPA testified, "Our position is we should not wait until there is scientific certainty and consensus around the world that ozone is depleting. There are examples of where it is depleting to dictate a prudent, stringent course of action around the world. Essentially, This is what was accomplished in 1987 by the Montreal Protocol. The protocol was as successful as it was because of a serious sense of urgency as expressed by key individuals and organizations such as the ones previously listed. It is not just the knowledge of depleting ozone that triggered action. Without this protective shield, severe repercussions could occur. The ultraviolet rays can lead to serious health effects such as skin cancer or cataracts. Various crops are also affected by these rays. Therefore, research is suggesting that depletion in the ozone layer was in large part caused by human activity, as well as the potential of severe health risks, helped make the protocol a successful reality. In 1987, the Montreal Protocol was widely considered to be highly successful. Experts agree it has accomplished a great deal, but has also lacked in certain areas. Just this year, on September 16th, which is the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon sent out a message covering some of the highlights of the Montreal Protocol. It received universal ratification in 2009. Production and consumption of the ozone-depleting materials has been cut by 98% since 1987. Furthermore, thanks to the protocol, greenhouse gases have been cut by over 135 billion tons of CO2. Unlike the Vienna Convention in 1985, which also revolved around substances that deplete the ozone layer, it did place controls on the production and consumption of CFCs instead of only asking for countries to take appropriate actions in an attempt to protect it. Another success of the protocol was corporate involvement. In September 1988, E.I. DuPont de Nemours and Company revealed plans to construct a fully functional commercial plant with the intention of producing a substitute for CFC-12, which would be free of any ozone-depleting compounds. This is a huge outcome. Few people expected a CFC-based company to take action like this. Not to mention, chlorofluorocarbons were a $100 billion industry when the Montreal Protocol was adopted. While the progress of this protocol is undeniably great, many experts felt there were shortcomings that came along with it too. For instance, Joel Mintz believed the protocol contained weak enforcement mechanisms. Although, one may wonder, if these mechanisms had been stricter, would it have ever gained universal ratification or even much of its gained success at all? Especially for some of the developing nations, harsh penalties may not have made the Montreal Protocol very attractive. Furthermore, some ozone-depleting chemicals were not regulated, such as methylchloroform, methane, and carbon tetrachloride. Some experts may have thought that because of certain ozone-depleting chemicals being left out, that the protocol lacked a certain amount of integrity. Over the years, though, changes to the protocol have included regulations on more substances and more groups of substances. Methylchloroform and carbon tetrachloride were eventually included at the fourth meeting of parties, and HCFCs and HBFCs were finally included during the Copenhagen Amendment in 1992. All in all, research gathered on the issue from the 1970s onward have played a major role in making the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer a reality. And though it was widely considered a success, many experts felt there were certain aspects that were not satisfactory. As a hole in the ozone grows, so does a window for disease, crop failure, and environmental damage. With an ever-increasing population, reaching these goals is becoming harder by the day. It is safe to say that CFCs would still be on the rise without the Montreal Protocol.